Kaelen stood, a pale, silent anomaly amidst the towering chrome and indifferent alien faces of the processing center. Her eyes, hollowed by a loss too fresh to name, watched without seeing as the designation, Survivor 7, was stamped onto her wrist tag. She offered no resistance, no plea, just a quiet emptiness that unnerved even the stoic Xeno clerks. In the echoing briefing hall, Instructor Vark's guttural voice boomed, amplified across holographic displays. He detailed the Sim Wars, a brutal, unforgiving gauntlet designed to forge warriors or break the weak. For the human, he snarled, it was re-education. Alien cadets, hulking and armored, snickered, their multifaceted eyes mocking Kaelen's diminutive frame. She remained unmoving, a statue of quiet defiance, her gaze fixed on the simulated battlefields flickering above them, utterly unreadable. The drop was abrupt, a violent lurch into a desolate, war-torn cityscape. Simulated enemy fire erupted immediately, plasma bolts lancing through crumbling holographic buildings. Panic seized the alien cadets. Cadet Xylos, a four-limbed Krell, fumbled his weapon, shrieking as a blast vaporized a nearby wall. Kaelen, however, landed with a soft, calculated roll. She didn't shout, didn't flinch. Her eyes, sharp and cold, swept across the chaos, assessing, calculating, already seeing beyond the immediate firefight. Instead of joining the desperate, ineffectual firefight, Kaelen sprinted towards a crumbling comms relay station, ignoring Xylos's panicked calls. She dove behind a broken console, her fingers flying across its alien interface, bypassing security protocols with unnerving speed. A local enemy scouting drone, previously targeting their position, suddenly stuttered, its optical sensors flickering. It turned, firing a concentrated burst into the primary comms tower, then into two of its allied patrol units. The tower went silent, a vital enemy network collapsing not from combat, but from an unseen internal sabotage. Xylos stared, mouth agape. The observation deck hummed with the muted glow of tactical screens, each displaying a fragment of the Sim Wars. Instructor Vark, a hulking Xylosian with skin like weathered granite, grunted, his gaze fixed on Kaelen's squad. A system glitch, he rumbled, dismissing the sudden silence from an enemy comms tower. The human got lucky. Primitive cunning, nothing more. Commander Lyra, her avian features sharp and analytical, simply watched, requesting deeper analysis on Survivor 7's recent activity. She stated, her voice calm, cutting through Vark's dismissiveness. The ghosted drone, now a rogue element within the simulation's own network, continued its silent sabotage, a ripple effect defying Vark's casual explanation. Its erratic movements on the tactical overlay showed Kaelen's squad, against all odds, navigating a path of uncanny survival. Vark's eyes narrowed, a flicker of something beyond irritation crossing his ancient face. Within the desolate, ruined marketplace sector of the simulation, under a sky choked with simulated smoke, Kaelen moved. Debris from disabled transports and shattered drones littered the ground, a graveyard of forgotten tech. While other cadets frantically sought cover, Kaelen knelt, her nimble fingers a blur of purposeful motion. She scavenged, pulling wiring from a defunct targeting array, prying a power cell from a broken scout drone. Cadet Xylos, huddled behind a collapsed wall, watched, bewildered. Kaelen worked without a word, twisting metal, connecting circuits. Sparks flew as she jury-rigged a crude jamming device from a comms unit. Then a handful of rudimentary distraction flares from discarded power conduits and chemical accelerants. Xylos stammered, What are you doing?" Kaelen didn't respond, her gaze fixed on the improvised tools, turning junk into a lifeline. The bridgehead was a choke point, a killing field, under relentless simulated artillery fire. Alien cadets, including Xylos, huddled, paralyzed by fear as a proximity alarm blared, signaling a rigged explosive trap directly in their path. Before panic could fully set in, Kaelen moved. She didn't shout, didn't hesitate. A silent blur, she darted forward, her hands moving with surgical precision over the device. The flashing red light of the explosive flickered, then died. Disarmed. Without breaking rhythm, she took the salvaged explosives, swiftly resetting them with a new trigger, then hurled the volatile package towards a fortified enemy position. The resulting explosion, controlled and precise, created a momentary diversion, a gap in the enemy's relentless assault. Her team, jolted by her decisive action, moved. Xylos, seeing her lead, pushed forward, the others following, no verbal orders exchanged, only the silent, undeniable authority of Kaelen's actions. Back on the observation deck, a low murmur had replaced the earlier scoffing. An observer leaned forward, tapping a screen. Her squad, they just vanished from enemy sensors during that ambush on the bridgehead. How? Another, a grizzled veteran, muttered, his voice hushed. It's like she's a ghost, dismantling them from the inside. The tactical map showed Kaelen's squad as a flickering, almost invisible blip, their movements defying detection. Instructor Vark, his jaw clenched, watched the impossible data. Her squad's survival rate, against all odds and escalating threats, was unprecedented. He didn't speak, but the grudging acknowledgement was etched onto his face. The name, the ghost, began to spread, whispered through the control room, a new designation for the unseen, terrifying tactical impact of SURVIVOR-7. It was uttered with a mix of fear and wonder, a legend beginning to take form. The hum of the control room was usually a steady thrum, a backdrop to the clamor of tactical analysis. But now, it was punctuated by sharp, urgent clicks as Commander Lyra, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the main display, manually adjusted simulation parameters. Target designation, SURVIVOR-7. Threat level escalated to Code Onyx, she stated, her voice calm but firm. On the holographic map, Kaelen's small squad blip, which had been navigating enemy lines with uncanny ease, suddenly found itself surrounded by converging red vectors. Instructor Vark, watching from his perch, grunted, a sound of dread. Deploying Class 3 interceptors. Designed for stealth nullification. This is no longer a standard trial. They're hunting the human specifically. A grim realization settled on his hard-lined face. The game had changed. In the heart of a simulated spaceport, holographic alien warships, bristling with weaponry, formed an impenetrable blockade. Thousands of simulated lives, millions of credits and virtual assets, all under the command of a supposedly unassailable network. Kaelen, however, didn't see a blockade. She saw a system. Crouched behind a derelict cargo container, her fingers danced across a salvaged comms panel, jury-rigged with components from a downed transport. Xylos, patched through primary relay. Data burst, randomized frequency, full spectrum. Her voice was a low, almost inaudible hum against the distant thrum of simulated star engines. Xylos, wide-eyed, fumbled with the connection. On the main spaceport display, a single, almost imperceptible flicker. Then, chaos. A destroyer's targeting systems flared, locking onto an allied frigate. A transport ship's engines sputtered, then exploded, showering debris onto a cruiser. Within minutes, the once-ordered fleet became a maelstrom of friendly fire, ships turning on each other, systems failing in a cascading error. Kaelen watched, her pale face impassive, as an entire simulated armada dismantled itself. Not a single shot fired from her position. The fortified enemy outpost, once a bastion of enemy control, was now a scene of utter disarray. Alarms blared without direction. Patrols stumbled over each other, their comms channels choked with static from Kaelen's earlier intervention. Kaelen moved like smoke, her small frame weaving through the panicked alien ground troops. Her squad, including a bewildered Xylos, followed in her wake. She didn't speak, didn't gesture wildly. A flick of her wrist, and Xylos would divert a patrol. A subtle shift in her weight, and another cadet would secure a data terminal. They moved as a single, silent entity, capitalizing on the systemic collapse Kaelen had engineered. No direct engagements. No wasted energy. They were a phantom limb of destruction, sweeping through the outpost, securing vital intel cores and disabling key defenses before melting back into the shadows, leaving behind only confusion and the phantom sting of an unseen enemy. Back in the observation deck, the monitors displayed the aftermath. A once formidable enemy fleet reduced to inert husks. A fortified outpost, now a hollow shell. Vark stared, his guttural voice barely a whisper. It was like a ghost passed through their network. Just collapsed. Commander Lyra, her analytical gaze sharper than ever, nodded slowly. She is not just a survivor. She is a ghost in the machine. The phrase resonated. Other observers, officers, and even high command liaisons picked it up. The ghost, one murmured, a mix of awe and palpable fear in his tone. She dismantles them from the inside out. The name, born from disbelief, now spread like a virus, solidifying Kaelen's terrifying new moniker. Late into the cycle, Instructor Vark sat alone in his private office, the holographic projections of Kaelen's simulation logs cycling before him. He scrubbed through the fleet collapse, the outpost infiltration, the almost surgical precision of her system errors. His initial disdain, his conviction that she was a flesh twig, had evaporated, replaced by a gnawing, unsettling respect. Unconventional, he muttered, running a clawed hand over his scarred brow. Primitive cunning, but effective. He saw the patterns now, the subtle exploits, the systemic vulnerabilities she'd identified, where his own hardened military mind saw only strength. A flicker, almost imperceptible, of something akin to admiration crossed his weary, battle-hardened face. He had misjudged. Profoundly. The simulated jungle thickened, a labyrinth of phosphorescent flora and gnarled roots. Advanced predator drones, nearly invisible on thermal, stalked the undergrowth, their multi-jointed limbs clicking with chilling precision. Kaelen didn't run. She moved with purpose, her fingers already working on a salvaged comms unit, twisting wires, rerouting circuits. "Xylos?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the drone's distant hum. "Disruptors. Here." She pointed to a cluster of dense foliage. Xylos, now anticipating her silent commands, quickly deployed the crude devices. A high-pitched shriek ripped through the air as a drone's IFF system overloaded, its internal targeting going haywire. It locked onto a fellow predator, firing a volley of sonic pulses. The jungle erupted in mechanical screeches and wild, indiscriminate fire. Kaelen's squad, shielded by the chaos, slipped through the crossfire, the hunters now tearing themselves apart. In her private data analysis chamber, Commander Lyra observed Kaelen's latest exploit. Holographic projections of the simulated jungle flickered, showing the predator drones neutralizing each other, a systemic collapse Kaelen had orchestrated with a few scraps of tech. "Remarkable," Lyra murmured, her voice smooth and analytical. "She doesn't just adapt, she rewrites the rules of engagement." Lyra reviewed Kaelen's full combat profile, her eyes tracing patterns of systemic exploitation, of vulnerabilities turned into weapons. "She thinks like the enemy AI," Lyra noted to herself, "but with a human unpredictability that renders all counter-protocols useless." The commander leaned forward, activating a secure terminal. A recommendation for Kaelen's transfer to a specialized system exploitation division began to draft itself. A brief, precious lull in the simulated battle. Kaelen and Xylos took cover behind a collapsed transport vehicle, the jungle's cacophony momentarily distant. Xylos, his alien features still etched with the strain of combat, looked at Kaelen with a reverence that had long replaced his initial fear. "Human," he began, his voice raspy. You have saved us. More times than I can count." He hesitated, then continued. "My life is yours. I will be your eyes and ears, your shadow, whatever you need." Kaelen, her gaze still sweeping the horizon, offered a rare, almost imperceptible nod. It was more than enough. Xylos felt a surge of loyalty, a silent understanding passing between them that transcended species and language. The name spread like a virus. Across the vast alien military station, from the grimy mess halls where junior cadets huddled over nutrient paste, to the gleaming observation posts where high-ranking officers debated strategy, the ghost was whispered. Cadets gossiped about her impossible exploits, how she made entire fleets vanish, how she turned advanced predator drones into fratricidal machines. Officers, initially dismissive, now discussed her tactics with a mix of fear and admiration, her efficiency a terrifying anomaly. "The ghost," one officer murmured, tracing a finger across a tactical screen showing Kaelen's squad as a flickering, almost invisible blip. The name was no longer a rumor. It was a designation of ultimate fear, a pervasive, terrifying reality that promised unseen, devastating power. The simulation shifted, the holographic walls of their asteroid refuge dissolving into a vista of desolate rock and cosmic dust. Before them, a simulated asteroid field pulsed with the cold glare of weapon-targeting arrays. This was it, the final gauntlet. An entire enemy fleet, its dreadnoughts vast, cloaked titans of war, emerged from the shadows between celestial bodies. This wasn't just a fleet, it was commanded by an AI designed specifically to predict and counter Kaelen's every move, an unbeatable intelligence. Her squad, huddled in their makeshift command post, were stranded, outnumbered, and outgunned. Cadet Xylos, his multifaceted eyes wide with despair, whispered, "This is it. They've made it impossible." Kaelen remained silent, her eyes, dark and unreadable, fixed on the impossible challenge. Kaelen moved, ignoring the conventional strategy of defensive positioning or direct engagement. She crouched over a jury-rigged comms unit, salvaged wires snaking around a cracked control panel. Her fingers, nimble and precise, danced across the interface, not targeting weapons, but delving deep into the enemy AI's core programming. She was hacking the unbeatable commander directly, not to destroy, but to manipulate. With each rapid keystroke, she transmitted fragmented data, echoes of her colony's destruction, raw, unedited despair. It was a gamble, a probe for a latent humanity protocol, a ghost in the machine. On the holographic display, the AI commander's avatar flickered, its cold, calculated form momentarily glitching, showing internal conflict. Xylos, watching, gasped, "What are you doing?" Kaelen offered no answer, only an intensified focus. Then the impossible happened. Across the simulated asteroid field, the dreadnoughts, poised to strike, began to falter. Weapon fire ceased. Engines powered down. One by one, the massive ships went dark, their formidable presence shrinking into inert hulks. The unbeatable AI commander, overloaded or perhaps persuaded by Kaelen's data, initiated a system-wide shutdown. The simulated battle, which had moments ago raged with overwhelming ferocity, fell into a profound, chilling silence. Kaelen's squad watched, dumbfounded, as the entire enemy fleet became a graveyard of silent metal. Xylos choked out a disbelieving laugh, a raw sound of victory and shock. Kaelen, her face devoid of emotion, simply observed the quiet, the satisfaction, a subtle shift in her posture. The simulation officially ended. Kaelen's squad, the sole group to survive the unbeatable challenge, stood amidst the inert fleet, a testament to a victory achieved not by force, but by intellect. Xylos looked at Kaelen, his awe palpable, fear now replaced by an absolute, unwavering devotion. He whispered, "The ghost." Kaelen offered no verbal response, but a faint, almost imperceptible nod. Then, for a fleeting moment, she closed her eyes. The weight of her past, the loss that had forged her pragmatism, lingered in that brief flicker. She was a solitary figure of immense, unseen power, standing triumphant in a war she had dismantled from the inside out. The hum of the simulation system, a constant, almost comforting thrum for cycles, was the only sound in the observation deck. Commander Lyra stood, a statue of profound respect, her analytical gaze fixed on the inert holographic asteroid field. Beside her, Instructor Vark's guttural throat was silent, his massive jaw slack. His eyes, usually narrowed with disdain or calculated assessment, were wide, reflecting a dawning, terrifying understanding. Other observers, high-ranking officers and veteran cadets, stood equally frozen. No one spoke. The magnitude of the ghost's achievement, the impossible, unseen dismantling of an unbeatable fleet, had sunk in, leaving only a profound, echoing silence. Kaelen emerged from the simulation chamber limping slightly, dust clinging to her worn fatigues. Her eyes, still hollowed by memory and fatigue, scanned the austere debriefing room, finding nothing of interest. Instructor Vark, regaining a fraction of his composure, merely grunted, a sound devoid of his usual scorn. perhaps even holding a sliver of bewildered respect. Commander Lyra stepped forward, her posture formal, her voice calm but weighted with a new authority. "SURVIVOR-7, she began, extending a hand not in greeting, but in a gesture of weighty offer. "Your unique capabilities have been noted. The Legion has a specialized system exploitation division. We believe your talents would be invaluable." Kaelen met her gaze, her expression unreadable. "Understood," she replied, the single word concise, accepting a new purpose. In the weeks that followed, the stories spread like a virus through the vast alien military station. Cadets, huddled in mess halls, whispered about the human who could see the code of reality, who could dismantle systems with a thought. Officers, poring over tactical reports, discussed her impossible exploits with a mix of fear and admiration, confirming the impossible. They said she was more machine than human, that her mind was a weapon of pure logic, devoid of fear or mercy. No longer a mere designation, the name, the Ghost, was uttered everywhere, a moniker of unseen, devastating power. It was synonymous not with death in a poetic sense, but with the inevitable, silent collapse of everything an enemy held secure. Deep within a dimly lit, high-security command center, Kaelen worked. Her fingers, nimble and precise, danced across a central console, manipulating holographic projections of enemy fleet dispositions. She was no longer a cadet, no longer merely SURVIVOR-7. She was the Ghost. Commander Lyra observed from a shadowed alcove, a silent sentinel. Kaelen moved without sound, without wasted motion, dismantling simulated enemy fleets with terrifying, surgical efficiency. Lyra watched the projections of enemy systems flicker, then die. She knew, with chilling certainty, that Kaelen was the ultimate strategic weapon. You wouldn't see her coming. You'd just know your systems were already dead.